So it's about 6 o'clock on March 13th, 2024. I'll call the Town of Barnstable Shellfish Committee meeting to order. Before we have any business, I have to state this notice of recording. Please note that tonight's meeting is recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel, and in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, I must inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting and to please make their presence known. Other than the town taping the meeting, is anybody else? Great. So, first order of business is to approve the minutes from January 10, 2024.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as published for January 10th, 2024, noting that there was no meeting in February 2024.
It's been moved. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Been moved and second. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? And they are approved. Thank you very much. My comments I'll reserve until the end of the meeting. Natural resources.
Yeah, okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Well, thanks for welcoming me. Chris Nappy, Senior Natural Resource Officer, stepping in for Amy tonight. So, yeah, you guys are lucky. It's your lucky day. You showed up today. So, yeah, hopefully, yeah, we'll blast through this stuff. You guys didn't have a meeting last week, so there's some maps that maybe you didn't see. Let me open these. There we go. So, yeah, North Bay opened February 15th.
Prince Cove.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Prince Cove. Thanks for that, Jake. Yeah, the Mills River opened, so people have been in there. Dragging and a few rec people here and there. So that's good. Things are moving along there. And then this is just the North Bay, the zoom in for that, just of North Bay. And coming up before the next meeting, I don't know why that looks weird. So what'll happen is Scudder Lane will close for April 1st. Let's see if we can get a better. Cool. So there we go. So yeah, Scudder Lane will close effective April 1st, and that goes from the boathouse to the east of Scudder to the Barnstable Yacht Club Pier. It's normal. Yeah, so that'll happen then. And that other map that didn't open was just a zoom in of Scudder.
What is that closed for?
That's the management closure.
Okay.
No, it's a town closure for us to do propagation in there. So they'll start the propagation crew will start to move the remote set oysters from the growing area here, and they'll put them over at Harris Meadows. So the main thing is to keep the wreck fishery out of this area, to rest it and allow the oysters that are planted over here to grow. Right? So this area just gets hit so hard during oyster season when it's open that it needs that time to stay closed.
That far edge going that way,
yeah.
Yeah, the north, I guess it's north. How, is that marked? How far does that actually go up?
Yeah, that goes to the Huckins Island flat. So, you know, that flat extends all the way out here to the west. So we just say it's south of that flat. So the channel's technically open, but if you're up on the flat, it's, sorry, the channel's closed. If you're up on the flat, it's open.
And then I was just curious, you guys closed oyster early, but it's still open just for like cohogs and razor.
Right, yeah. So this area right now is closed. The oyster harvest is closed on the north side. It has been for a couple weeks. So people can still go in here and get steamers, razors, cohogs. They just can't harvest oysters in here. And then this whole area will shut down to everything April 1st. So, yep. And And then Pompanesett will also close. I'm gonna guess that's probably not gonna open right until I try it twice.
Or worse.
There we go. So Pompanesett will also close April 1st. Shoestring. So that's all normal closures for April.
Questions?
Oh, okay.
What about Barnstable Harbor?
What's that?
What about Barnstable Harbor? Like, does that stay open?
Yep, yep. Nothing happens there for a couple months. So, yeah, and then oyster notices we had, since you guys met last time, this was on 2/6, that's what Jake referred to. We closed the recreational harvest of oysters on the north side. So that was on February 14th. But people can still go to the south side. Pretty much Bridge Street is the only spot that has oysters. You can they can get a full peck there. And the propagation, they're still dumping oysters out there that people can get for the rest of the month. So that'll close April 1st. So right here. All areas will be closed for oysters April 1st. And this is just the Scudder Lane notice too. So, yeah, that's that.
Any questions? No? Okay.
The propagation report, I don't have a printout of that for you guys to look at. I just have an email. So since you met last time, Ryan Henry was hired as the new shellfish technician. So he replaced Devin Nunez, who took the constable position in Eastham. And then they're interviewing new candidates for the seasonal positions. Sorry, Ryan Henry was in a seasonal position for 2 years prior to that. So he knows the business, he knows his way around town, he knows kind of the program there. And so now he's in the full-time position, and then they're rehiring their seasonal position, so they have one to start in mid-April and another mid-May. And then they're also going to be we're going to be a host site for an aquaculture internship program through MIT Sea Grant. So that'll give us an extra person. There's a little pamphlet that the MIT Sea Grant program. So this is a paid internship program that helps bring people to the Cape or gets more people into aquaculture, and it's run through Sea Grant. So we have somebody being placed with the town that'll be one of the seasonal employees for that. So this is just kind of their advertisement. Yeah, it's a paid internship, so it's cool to get some fresh blood in the area.
Available to how many people?
Yeah, I don't know. It's through their program. So you have to, I wasn't really involved with the selection or how the person gets placed. But it's right here, 12 people, and they go out to communities in the area. So they get training for a week in April, and then they have 3 weeks of trial rotation, so and extended interviews. So they'll kind of move around to 3 different host sites for a week at a time, and then they work for the host site all the way through almost to the end of the year.
Gotcha.
So we'll have that person for a solid amount of time. And they get paid for housing.
Through that grant, obviously.
Yep. So it's actually like bringing people to the Cape, and they get like a little housing stipend. And they'll get paid $17.50 an hour, which is, I think, what we pay the seasonals anyway. So.
Questions?
Right. So yeah, so that's yeah, pretty cool program. Then Liz recently taught a session for the county's fundamentals of shellfish farming. and that was through the county program. And then she taught another class at Roger Williams University where they asked her to come teach their students there about quahog grow-out techniques. And that was like a 2-hour class that she taught at the school. So props to her for that. And then they're already bringing out gear in preparation for the spring. They've been maintaining 246 nets for quahogs. Oysters are being moved from bags to trays on the north side, I guess because, yeah, their bags were busting out and that stuff, I think they kept most of that stuff in the water for the winter. That was mostly remote set. And they said the remote set looks like it's in excellent shape and ready to be planted on bottom in a month or so in that closed area just to the east, to the west of Harris Meadow. They said they only need to do a few minor repairs to any of the quahog nets from winter damage because there was really no ice anywhere. And they've had, but because of the winds and the storms, they've still had buoys moving around. So if you guys see them, if anybody's out and about on the water, if you see an NR buoy, let us know and we can snag that and put it in its right place. Or if you notice one's missing, we can do that as well. And then
You got numbers?
I do. Where was that? I put that in here. The permit numbers. Yeah, I put that in there. The T drive. Anyway, I have it written up here. No, it's not in there. So I can pass this around to you guys anyway. So for resident permits, we've sold 558. Last year at this point, we had sold 789. Non-resident permits so far this year, we've got 100. We sold 160. Non-resident last year was 257 at this point. Resident seniors so far this year is 392, down from 616 last year. Non-resident veterans, 20 so far this year, and it was 23 last year. Veteran seniors, we're at 41, down from 55 last year. So year-to-date total is 1,171, and year-to-date income is 58,690. Last year's year-to-date total was 75,837. But just so keep in mind, I think those numbers are down a little bit because we had this. That was when we were changing our the dates that we were selling the permits. So we were given a prorated amount at the beginning of last year. So the permits were cheaper. So people were scooping them up then to get that cheaper price.
It changed from like the March. And now it's like the beginning of the year?
Yeah, so it was March 30th, and now it's January 15th, to kind of go along with all the other permits that are office issues that come around at the new year now. So we tried to get just kind of the timing coincided with all of that. So yeah, that's probably the reason for those numbers being down. And then a dry dragging update. We plan on doing that 1-month trial for the Sepuit River. That should open March 15th. So that'll be open March 15th to April 15th. And then May 1st, the river Pirates Cove closes. So, and then, you know, boaters start kind of going around and they probably won't know about the maneuverability around people dragging for a quahog. So yeah, we shut that down April 15th. So yeah, that'll be another spot that'll be open for commercial dragging. Yeah, that's it.
Questions?
Commercial dragging in the Centerville River?
No, Sepuit River.
Pure River, okay.
Right.
So will that go the entire length of the river?
Yeah.
Do you have any interest?
Do I have interest?
No, Have you received any interest from the public?
Yeah, I mean, that spot is.
good.
Oh.
Significant.
Gentlemen,
Good.
please, we're in a meeting.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can ask him. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely interest there. That's why we're opening it. We're not just picking and choosing. We were approached about that spot in particular, so we're just testing it out, see how it goes.
Great.
Yep.
If you want, I can add a little bit.
Please.
So the whole dredging thing kind of came to fruition, or like the idea of it was back in, I think 2019. Me and Tyler Hagenstein kind of stumbled upon a really big stock of quahogs in the Superior River. And that area had historically never really been a quahog spot at all. John Novoychuk and Chris Freeman and everyone, Kenny, they can all attest to that. Well, back in, I think, what was it, 2015? Did you guys plant the scallops in the Superior River?
Yeah.
They planted scallops in the Superior River in two different sections, and they were dragged with the scallop drag. Well, the footprint of these exact area where the scallops were planted, if you go any further west or further east, the quahogs would stop. Right where the footprint of where the scallops were dragged was exactly where the heavy set of quahogs was. So that basically was like inspiration to, then we had Diane Murphy, remember, right, is her name? She came in, she talked about the sponge, and then we did the thing in the Mills River for 3 years where we dredged in the Mills River because of all the sponge and the degraded quality of the quahogs. The quahogs were like atrophied, if you guys remember. So now right now, currently, we're on year 4 of dragging in the river. The pilot program has ended and they've extended it to just open for dragging in the wintertime. The quahogs, there's seed everywhere. There was no, you went from getting out of 5 baskets, maybe 25 little necks. Now we're catching about 250 little necks out of 5 baskets, which is still not a lot of little necks, but from 25, and more importantly, the 25 little necks that we caught before were 25-year-old little necks. They were basically chalky little marbles, where the ones that you catch now have well-defined growth rings with a white lip on them that shows they're healthy and growing. The fishery, the small fishery that does do the quahog dragging, because of the evidence of what has happened in the Superior River in the past, think that it's a viable area to try to repeat that. You know, it hasn't been turned over since, with any sort of bottom gear, since the original scallop set. And then we hit it really hard. And since then, nobody's really been in there. I went in there a couple times this winter. The bottom's really tacky. There's a lot of slipper shells that have like invaded the area. They just grown up in the area. So hopefully by turning it again, we can just, you know, have a sustainable quahog fishery year in, year again.
Great. Anybody have any questions? Good job. Go ahead. Yeah.
Why not try that same situation in North Bay?
It is, it's open. It's open for dragging North Bay.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah.
Is it working?
Well, I mean, there's the North Bay just opened this year, so
Okay.
so we did several areas, and hopefully, you know, next year and the year.
It'll take time.
Yeah, time will tell.
I was very hopeful, but skeptical of what happened in Prince Cove. I was in there looking at the quality of the quahogs, thinking I'm not even going to be able to sell these, and let alone are these going to reproduce. And now that we've taken the meat off of the top of the just growth and the shell and stuff like that, the quality of the clam itself has improved, and the actual meat, even in the big chowders that they've been there since before we started, they went from being shriveled up little brown things to nice luscious pink orange meats in them with full meats.
No kidding.
Yeah, just because in the boring sponge damage is minimal compared to what almost every chowder had boring sponge damage on the tip of it by the siphon, because it was getting choked out by fouling and just stuff on the bottom that it was trying to push up. And now when the quahog pushes up, it's exposed to the water, and the boring sponge can then set on it. When the quahog is in the bottom, it can't get infected by the boring sponge.
Pretty neat.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, no problem.
Questions?
If you guys want to see those, I found the document for the permit numbers. It's up there. There it is. Yeah, so the numbers I said, just in person.
So you don't think that's that's just a timing issue about when the permits were issued or not?
It could be, yeah. I mean, that's probably the main part of the drop, and then, everybody, maybe gets a little discouraged when Scudder Lane closes, so they may not be that hip to renew right away. And then it took a while, I'm sure Amy's probably mentioned to you, for people to catch on about the oysters not going to Bay Street, and they went to Bridge Street instead. So, people still come up to me and ask, like, how come there's no oysters at Bay Street? And it's, well, because they all went to Bridge Street. And then people just drive away. They don't even try and go to Bridge Street. They don't go over there. They just leave.
They don't know
So,
where it is.
right, yeah, it's like right around the corner. So, we're just trying to, we try and like educate the public and teach them like where to go and like where to get the stuff. Because all those oysters are still there. They're just waiting. That's why that limit's up to a full peck. So, when you see people,
Is this the first year?
just tell them to go there. Right.
What's the question?
Is this the first year that, that change in the licenses, like the date that you
Right, yeah, this is the first year.
okay, yeah. That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, and everyone's gonna go buy them as soon as it opens.
Or they'll be there, or many people may still think that March will be the time, so we may see a little bump of that too.
Gotcha, because they're just used to that. Good. Any other questions for Chris?
Yes, I can't find in my notes, but the revised schedule of fines, has that been approved, or
Yeah.
where does it stand?
Actually, yeah, that just went to town council this past Thursday and was approved. Right,
Great.
right, yep. So Amy presented that, and yeah, they didn't see any problems with it, so,
Okay, and she'll post it on the web.
yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good follow-up. I'm going to go to new business, if everybody's okay with Chris. There is none. So I'm going to go to old business. Let's see. We have a hearing on Thomas Reichevy's renewal.
Yes, that
And-
is next Wednesday. So I got that up already. Yeah, the hearing for that is March 20th at 10:30. So Tom Reichevy has a site in Barnstable Harbor. On the north side, it's 1.47 acres. He's had this site since the 90s. Yeah, he's been in business there for a while. So he lists here in his application a mean low water depth of dry, high water depth of 7 feet. Existing bottom conditions is sand, no natural shellfish population, and he's cultivating quahogs and soft shell clams. He doesn't list any other shellfish that he desires to grow there, and it's bottom culture, natural substrate, and it's a grow-out operation. He harvests with hand rakes and hydraulic pumps, and he uses 10X netting as his predator control program. It's not his sole means of support, and he does employ outside operation. And since he's had this for a while, it's a renewal of 10 years. And here's the map. He's got one of those odd-shaped ones with ton of GPS points marking the boundaries, but it's, he's had that spot for a while, so.
Anybody have any questions about his work? Is Natural Resources satisfied with his catch reports and all of his other reports?
Yes, he's up to date on all of his paperwork, and we haven't had any issues with that, so.
Great. Questions about the application? No? Anybody from the public? No? Great. So, again, our job on this is to recommend or not recommend to the town manager and the town council that this be approved. We don't have the approval authority. So I'll entertain a motion to recommend approval.
Second?
No. Somebody needs to make that motion.
Oh, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve Thomas Richetti,
Chevy.
Centerville, the renewal of his agricultural license for 10 years.
It's been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Great. Discussion about the application? Hearing none? All those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? No? Great. And then we've got a couple of proposed coastal projects. Do you want to talk about those?
Sure.
Chris, thanks.
One of them already went to conservation. All right. That's this 479, 749, sorry, South Main Street, Sandcastle. So this one is actually,
Is that in Silver River?
yeah. So they're redoing, they want to redo the bulkhead here. So they're going to change it from, what was that? Took some notes on this. Yeah, they're going to replace the bulkhead from wooden to vinyl, and they're accessing it all from the upland. So they're not going to impact any of the shellfish here. They're not going to be in the water at all. So it's really, yeah, we're not concerned about it. Yeah, it's all upland.
They're gonna raise the whole yard, correct?
Right.
And that's like, I believe, one of the houses that has the underwater septic system that you hear about why the Centerville River's closed.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know.
You know what I'm talking, have you ever heard about that?
I've heard of those, but I didn't know that this was one of those.
Well, I would
houses.
assume it is, since they're gonna raise it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where their septic system is there, so it doesn't say on this site plan. So this is really all the information I have on it.
Gotcha.
And is this in an area where you can harvest shellfish?
No.
Right, prohibited.
Right.
Well, it's also not in the water.
Right.
What, the work, you mean?
Work.
Yeah, no, I get it. So it's really none of our concern, right?
Not our concern. no.
So we can move on? Great.
Yeah, it already went to conservation.
Yeah. So we've been marginalized yet again.
I was wondering, it always goes to conservation before it goes to us anyway, so.
Well, one of the reasons why we went from the third Wednesday to the second Wednesday is to avoid that.
Yeah.
But we obviously,
Every time I heard.
Do they,
March
the
5th.
conservation meet more than once a month?
I believe they do.
Yeah,
Every other week.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, 3 times.
Yeah,
Number
so-
2 is, let's see, this is the town of Barnstable wants to do something at 40 Haywood Road. Now, it's right around the corner from this.
Yeah, that's Hayward Landing. I don't have any paperwork on that. Unfortunately, I don't have a document about that one, but it's the town landing. So the town wants to redo
yeah.
that pier and the bulkhead there. So that's a prohibited area, muck pit, and there's history of the town, you know, doing work in that location anyway,
I
so.
was at the Waterways Committee for this.
Okay.
For something else, but I saw this. They basically, the dinghy dock closest to the shore is out of compliance with the mean low water restrictions, so
Right.
they're moving that out. And I think there was something else, they're gonna just move out the other pier that was, the town, I think, has like their own designated floating dock, and they're gonna just move that out as well.
This also took place yesterday, so
Yeah.
I'm going to move on.
But out of curiosity, Jake, when you say move it out, do you mean put it further out into the river?
I don't think the actual like main pier is gonna move out, but yes, the floating dock coming off perpendicularly is gonna move out to the end of the dock.
Are they removing
The
any
pier.
of the floating moorings that are in front of it? Because it's already pretty narrow.
No, they're not.
Interesting.
Yeah, but but it's not gonna extend further than the existing pier. You know what I'm saying?
So they're not going to relocate it to the front of the
No, no, no.
stationary pier? They're
Yeah,
gonna
so
keep
like
it on the
that,
side?
where the pilings are already is gonna stay, but the floating docks that are, I guess, to the east of the pier, if you're looking at it from a chart, are gonna just be moved basically to the end of, like, one's gonna come off like an L at the base of the pier, and then another one's gonna come off, kind of like an upside down F coming off the,
Okay.
do you get what I'm saying, off the shore? Yeah. So the actual length isn't gonna go further into the channel.
Because it's tight there.
Yeah.
With everything floating there, if you have to pass another boat, it's,
Yeah, I know it is, yeah, for sure.
All right, I'm going to move on from item number 2, if that's okay, and move to special presentations, which there are none, and then go to actual old business. I thought we were in old business. This was upcoming in old renewal and transfer hearings. So now on to old business. Status of the repair of Scudder Lane Town Landing.
Any updates on that?
Yeah,
And-
no answers to that one.
For those who work in this area, is anything happening at that landing?
No.
Good thing.
So the condition of the Scudder Lane Town Landing continues to be exactly the same as it was a year ago.
A little worse.
Mark?
They've patched some of the potholes on the ramp portion leading down to the flat, made it much better. Some of us have been asking about 3 or 4 years, no, 4 or 5 years for them to do that. They did it, and it's not that bad if nothing else is happening over there right now, because it's, again, a lot better. That's what it needed, was to fix some of those holes that were in the pavement.
And when you say they, can you please just, the town did that? So DPW?
Yes.
Thank you, Mark. I'm going to move on to number 2. Agriculture regulation changes, discussion in reference to subcommittee. So here's my comments. I had an opportunity to speak to the legal department a couple of times about forming a subcommittee. I'm going to go back to what I suggested originally. I'd like to see this legislation developed in a subcommittee atmosphere where those issues can be addressed and a final revision can be made of these regulations, and then a recommendation by that subcommittee back to our committee. The town attorney's office has informed me that they are open to deal with this subcommittee, deal with the legislative language, so that when it comes back to the committee as a whole, it will have been vetted by legal and it will be vetted by various other interest groups. My hope was that we could have a subcommittee consisting of volunteers from rec, from this committee, from agricultural aspects. I need volunteers for that committee.
I thought we couldn't have a committee.
We can. I've been able to speak to the town attorney's office. I've had a couple of conversations with their office over the past week, and they've explained to me that we can. And the process for establishing a subcommittee is we have a motion, has to be seconded, and then approved to form the subcommittee. And it's a majority vote. So if we can vote to create a subcommittee,
Yeah, if I could say.
Please.
Yeah, it was my understanding that if a subcommittee's formed, it has to be made of the members of the committee, not just members of the public. It needs to be, a subcommittee of the committee. Right, so, yeah, not just general rec people or aquaculturists. It needs to be, yeah. People at the table, right.
and it cannot be a majority of this committee. If all of a sudden we have a majority of this committee, then you've got to notice that meeting, you've got to take minutes and the whole 9 yards.
Well, I disagree. I see no reason to do a subcommittee. We've been beaten to this. This thing has been going on for a year. The DNR has presented some very clear, concise regulations. The aquaculture community is in agreement with it. I just don't see, this is, just beating a dead horse. I mean, I think we should vote on it.
I appreciate that. Here's one of my issues with that. I have a number of issues with that piece of legislation there. That's not been vetted by the town attorney's office.
Well,
So hear me out.
Go ahead.
I have no desire to vote on something that hasn't been finally vetted from their perspective. It's a piece of raw
Well, why
words.
can't we just make it subject to? It has been, right?
They have.
Not according to my conversation with the attorney's office. So
According to DNR, they brought it to them, as far as I know.
Yeah, I have a document that just has, so we're talking about 54, 57, and 59. So I received information from the town attorney where they just made a minor change to 59. Nothing in 54, 57. But one change in 59, I don't know if I have that in here. Let's see.
Which one was 59?
yeah, 59 is not on our last minutes.
Investment standards. It's in your, it was in the
59,
agenda for
59.
discussion. So,
59.
You have a green book?
Is it possible to project 59 up on the screen?
I don't.
7, 60.
I wish I could.
So at our January
The
meeting,
production value,
Is 59?
yeah.
What did they change?
They just put a note in there, and you have the word, so for the purposes of stated herein, reasonable amount of shellfish planted and or produced shall mean income from sales of, so they added that income of sales of not less than 4,000 per acre per year based on market value.
why is it in the last minutes?
Which one is?
We
it?
go from 57 to 60.
Production value. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't involved in that, so I can't answer that
That's,
for you.
Minutes from the January.
read it someplace.
And which number is it again?
407.59.
59, okay.
I have that here I have this, yeah, in the list that went to review.
Can I see the response from the town attorney, please?
Yeah, I mean, that's been on all of these. These are drafts that you guys have. I have a couple copies there.
I remember the 4,000.
Here's another copy if you guys are looking for it. Here's a copy. So 407.59.
50
So I just see
or 57.
blue marking on that. I don't see anything that would lead me to conclude that there's a response from...
Yeah, I mean, that's, you don't have to, take my word for it. I'm just-
Yeah, I
right.
just didn't know if it was something different.
Right.
So this has been,
I'm not convinced that it's been, based on my conversation and that document, I'm not convinced that this has been vetted by the town.
well, I don't, why?
By the town attorney's office.
What's the problem with having a vote subject to the town attorney reviewing the documents? We're not attorneys. You are an attorney, but we're not attorneys. We're simply going with the draft that was done by DNR, which is been backed by I think most of the aquaculture people. I think it's a good start to where we want to go, and it's something that we can work with and see how it goes. I mean,
So-
I just don't.
Let me just jump off from what you just said. It's a good start from which to go.
It's a good start.
So that's precisely what I'm trying to accomplish. If it's a good start, then we start with this draft.
Yeah.
And we get to the legislation that makes sense.
Well,
You
I
don't-
think the legislation does make sense.
You don't vote legislation and then say, oh, let's change it. No, you vote legislation that makes sense,
No, I'm not saying that at all.
unless we're in Washington,
Well, maybe
D.C.
that's the way it came across. What I'm saying is this is legislation that is a compromise from DNR and the aquaculture industry, clearly. So I think the aquaculture industry is willing to go along with DNR. We're meeting in the middle. It's this compromise, which unfortunately the country doesn't seem to want to do anymore. This is a compromise, and I think we live with the compromise, and 2 years from now, 3 years from now, if it needs to be tweaked, you tweak it. If it doesn't, you don't. That's
And which
that's
one are
where I'm
you
coming
referring,
from.
which one are you referring to, Al?
I'm referring to, basically all three of them.
4, 7, and 9?
Yeah, I mean, that's the ones that,
9 is
really-
not an issue, that's just a matter of production value.
Yeah, so I mean, that's, I mean, the main one is the aquaculture licenses going from 2 acres to 4 acres, or 2 licenses, 1 license to 2 licenses. That's basically the
Doubling or tripling the acreage.
doubling. You're not really acreage, it's licenses.
So that's 57.
I think that's 57.
And what is 54?
54,
License, subleasing prohibited.
Yeah, you
Transfer of
can't
license,
sublease
untimely
and-
death.
and then it gets into deceased licensee and all that kind of stuff. Kind of cleans up that whole situation.
We voted on a couple of them that Amy proposed that she was going to take to the town.
And I thought 59 was the one that was voted on, and that was the production value.
And we voted on that one as well, I think.
I thought we did,
And
but it's on,
we didn't vote on the other ones because there was still just questions. So Amy, I believe, was going to take that to the town and just start working on that wording to make sure her wording was good, which she did. So pretty much the draft is at a standstill. So it's almost, nothing can really happen until we kind of vote on it.
so,
And then, I mean, once
but what are we
it's
voting on?
on those, I
On
think,
the-
what,
what
there
they
were
submitted.
five regulation changes, so, and we
So
voted on 2 already, so,
The only items on today's agenda are 54, 57, and 59.
yeah.
So right here, I have previously vetted and voted by Shellfish Committee. Right here, these were documents that Amy provided. Okay. So this one goes.
If we voted, shouldn't that be in the minutes?
Sure.
I'm not saying we didn't vote, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, in looking back to clarify, shouldn't it be in the minutes? I don't,
Was that December? Or-
So you guys,
I think that there was 1 or 2 of them that was from the December
Yeah,
meeting.
I think it was December.
That had gotten voted, and then there was a couple voted in January, as well as a couple that were postponed to the next meeting.
Yeah.
right,
15, 407, 36,
so on
and 12.
January 10th, yeah, you voted on 407-12, 407-50, 407-60.
And they're not on tonight's agenda,
No.
nor should they be, because we voted on them.
No, they've already been voted on.
So,
not in the
57 should
right
be.
here. Still a work in progress. So these are this is that document that I just passed out to everybody, that, the draft, right? So this is 407-54, 407-57, and 407-59.
This is the new one.
Right. These are the ones that we're talking about.
Have a
And-
copy of that?
Right, yep, right there. So, I'm gonna, so that's the draft. This is what we would send to the town manager for the, it's not in draft form. This is the exact language. Right here, right here.
That's gone to the town manager.
It has not gone there yet. You guys need to vote
Okay.
until you vote.
But I mean, it's finished.
This is ready for approval,
Correct. That's-
waiting a vote.
Yep.
And that's 54, 57, and 59.
And, you know,
No, 60's not in this.
It's 59, yeah.
And I thought we voted on the investment
I'll stop
standards.
scrolling there. Yeah, you guys can take a look at that.
54, 57, 59.
And 59 was the reasonable shellfish investment standards.
Correct.
Right, and so that's what the town attorney just provided a minor update to that you.
And I don't see
like
any
that.
reason to talk about 59, 407-59 any further. I'm just interested in further discussion of 54 and 59.
54, 59?
54 and 59.
54, 57, and I don't care about 59.
Oh, you don't? Okay,
That's shellfish investment standards.
okay.
These have, you know, again, these have been done by DNR, getting ready.
I know what you're saying. I appreciate that. And my compromise is to vote on 407-59 tonight
Nope.
and offer 54 and 57 to go to a subcommittee.
I'd like to vote on everything tonight, and then the subcommittee can be made if needed after the fact.
What would be the need for a subcommittee after you have voted?
Or,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. I mean, it's,
would-
it would be just a new proposal.
You would like to make a motion to vote on 54, 57, and 59.
I mean, if 57 goes down,
I would like to make a,
then are we talking about it?
I would like to make a motion to vote on 54, 57, and 59.
Can we hear what he,
I'll second that.
we still have some discussion.
No, it's fine, it's
No,
fine.
you can discuss it after
Yeah.
he makes the
All
motion.
right.
No, I didn't need to say anything.
So DJ, what's your motion?
I'm going to make a motion that,
You made the motion, so just,
to vote on the regulation 54, 57, and 59 tonight.
that's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Nobody wants to discuss it, huh? So my discussion is, I think 59 doesn't need any more discussion. And had you parsed them out individually, I would have voted in favor of it. But the way that it's presented, I can't vote in favor of all three. That's my discussion. Any other discussion? Yeah, go ahead.
Like, it gets voted down, and then what would, it comes back to a subcommittee to be brought up again.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know how, is that a thing that you can do? I mean,
So again, I laid out what it takes to make a subcommittee.
no, I get what you're saying, but I'm trying to play devil's advocate for DJ's side. It's like, if we voted on this right now and it got voted down, and then it still goes to the subcommittee, no, it's just over.
It's just done.
It's just
Then-
over and
then
we're
move
just
on
over
from
and
there
we
and we
move on and we
decide,
move
do we want to just do one? Do we want to do two? Do we,
Yeah,
it
but
just,
we kind of get a sense of where we're at right now.
So we vote no, but then it comes back to the table in the form of another,
it's like if you vote no that you don't want all three of them tonight,
Yeah.
then what do you want to do next? That would be the next discussion. So somebody could make a motion just to, take 59. And then we could separate that out, and then they could say, okay, what about 54? Would you be willing to do 54? So you can break it down with that.
We've talked about this for years.
Just asking what
I'm just
happens
curious,
if we
yeah.
don't.
It seems like right now what Stuart's saying and DJ's saying that we're about to vote on all three as a group. And if we vote against all three as a group,
Yeah.
and then we still have unhappy people, then
I mean,
we're back in the same spot,
But then
or,
someone can make a motion to kind of separate them and say, well, which
that's
ones do
what
we
I
want?
intended on. as we did before with my motion.
So let me also ask, is,
Let's vote on it.
we're in discussion mode.
Okay.
The language in 40754 talks about an entity being able to own the license. Is that what you're?
No. It allows an entity to be named on the license, not to own it.
So here's my issue. How do we know that they're a resident of the town of Barnstable?
Home rule still applies.
How?
DNR checks that.
So what do we have?
As far as,
It's no
it's
different than it is now.
two proofs of domicile. So, I mean, that's how we check, that's how they check if we're.
Hold on, we've got a member of the public, please, come to the table.
My name is Mark Begley. I'm a resident of Barnstable, in West Barnstable, and I have an aquaculture grant, as does my wife. We operate under an LLC, Beach Point Shellfish LLC. My wife's grant is titled Linda Begley, Manager, Beach Point Shellfish LLC. When she was renewing her license, she had to do the same domicile, information, bills, tax records, whatever that the current regulations require. When I renewed my license, I had to do the same. So that's how the town continues to, again, require that our individual names be on that. It can't just be Beach Point Shellfish LLC. The individuals' names have to be there. And those individuals have to be residents of Barnstable with the same documentation as if it was in the past when I was just Mark Begley, 20 High Street, West Barnstable, et cetera.
Appreciate that, Mark, thank you. So just so I understand, the rules, you're operating under the rules that currently exist, and we're asked to change those rules tonight. Yes, go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the DMF issues that permit with that title.
The town does too.
The town says that with the Beach Point on there?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the town,
That's what I was gonna say.
the town and the state both issue the permits naming the individual and the company together, and both have the same requirements. Like for the state one, obviously you have to be a resident of Massachusetts for the kind of license that they issue to aquaculture operations.
Say that again, Mark?
So at the state level, it's
Yeah.
very similar to what the town now does, which is mention both the individual's name and the company name. And there's requirements at the state level, I believe, to be a resident of the Commonwealth. And at the town level now, you have to show the domicile, the same domicile proof that any other individual would need to do to show that they have their, in this case, aquaculture license, be tied to an individual in the town.
And that's
The tax records, the electric bills.
regulation?
No, there's a state, the state have regulations for the other permits that I need. It's not for the aquaculture license, but you need propagation permits, you need ability to sell under another license, a commercial shellfisher license. So again, all of those, I think what the question was, doesn't the state do the same thing of name and company together on their permits or licenses? And the answer is yes.
Gotcha, thanks.
No.
Oh, you want to discuss this, Al?
Well, if you'd like, you are discussing it. 57 is strictly acreage limitation. It's no, all it is we're going from one license to two licenses. which, again, we've discussed.
It talks about the business name being added to the aquaculture license along with the name and Barnstable domicile of the licensee.
Which is what's going on right now. It's already in
So
progress.
the key thing here that just keeps getting mixed up is that there's the grant, there's the license, and then, you know, there's the permit, and we just keep grouping the businesses as taking over the license or taking over the grant. Like, everything stays the same as far as an individual has to be on that grant, on that license, on that permit. It's just adding the business to that license, that grant, to help kind of group some of the family businesses that are out there.
But it's already being done.
Yes.
This is.
So it's just clear.
This is what you're talking about is already after the fact.
Yes.
What you're concerned, or I think you're concerned about.
I know that there's a couple exceptions to the rules as far as corporate grants go, but if does like Cape Cod Oyster like have your name or Al's name? Like, I know that you guys have a couple grants that are under Cape Cod Oyster. Is there a name like Beach Point Oyster is for Mark Bagley on the license that the town has with both?
No, that's the point. The town already has, and has for 100 years, corporate ownership.
Yeah. No, I get that.
So
I'm just curious.
So then it got changed around.
But when it was, so he's kind of got Mark has a type of corporate ownership kind of, but is that the same exact like format as what your, West Bay farm has?
No.
So yours is just the Cape Cod Oyster, there's no Al or Dave underneath that?
So let me just put a finer point on what you just said, Al. They all got changed around when the town decided to have aquaculture regulations. Prior to that time, they didn't have aquaculture regulations, so they made them out of whole cloth. And those aquaculture regulations at the time had to deal with Cotuit Oyster. Richard Nelson had Cotuit Oyster, and he was very vocal in the creation of those regulations at that time, and he was able to speak for himself, and the Cotuit Oyster was carved out of those regulations. So there's your exception. And for years since then, we've been operating under those regulations. Now you're asking to...
What do you mean carved out? They weren't carved out. They were there before the regulations.
Thus, they were carved out when the regulations were put in place.
Yeah, in other words, exceptions.
So now the amendment to the regulations is to, in my opinion, it allows for a corporation to come in and become the owner of the grant, the license, whatever you want to call it. So that's my sticking point.
Okay, but
you want to vote on it now?
But you have to understand, it's already happening. This isn't. We're not voting on something.
Doesn't mean that I like it.
Oh, well, okay. All right, fine.
So
But understand that it's already happening.
You're saying there's people today coming in, getting a new grant as a business with no owner name?
No. It has exactly, listen to Mark. Listen to what he said.
He's got both on there.
let me-
And what Stuart's saying, his concern is that
A bit.
someone will come in and do what's been grandfathered. and
Well, he
wants
can't
to make
because the new
sure-
regulation is
But he
what
wants
he's
to
talking
make sure
about.
we don't accidentally open that door.
So, say, with the new regulations, I currently have a 2-acre grant. If I were able to, new regulations are in place, if I were to find another grant on my license, it would be Site 1602, Doug Crook Jr., and then Site 1603, Doug Crook Jr., but they function under Sandspit Oyster Company. That's all. So it's still names. So for you, it's Al Supernaut.
It's 4 acres.
It's grouping, there's still separate sites. It's just grouping, the companies now that have individuals that have, 3 grants in a family. So, the minimum's 8. There's under that minimum, instead of 3 separate names, it's 2. One person takes 4 acres, which are still separate grants, and then, the other person. So it's just grouping it up in that sense.
And it's allowing someone that has 1 license to have 2 licenses.
Instead of having, my wife take the next one, which, with how things currently work, that's the plan. But, also it helps with the situation of passing down operations too. So,
How does it help that, DJ? How does it help passing it down?
as far as grouping less,
It's because instead of just his name being on the license, he can also have his company's name on the license. So if he has inheritance of his company, the license follows that.
well, also, it's, if,
Let me recognize Mark, because I'm not going, I don't see that because
That's in the other regulation. though,
it currently
54.
exists, based on what you're saying, it currently exists. Mark?
To answer your question, Stuart, I think an example would be in my specific case and my wife's each having a license, 2 acres and 2 acres. We could at some point in the future perhaps pass it to our daughter who lives in town. We could not pass it to our 2 sons who live elsewhere. So the example would be, it would be possible for her to have the 4 acres as being the sole residence in Barnstable that we would be interested in passing it on to at some point in the future.
So you could still pass it on to your issue under the current regulations?
Only 2 acres.
Right.
Not our total of 4 acres in the family.
But the issue, the fact that you can pass it on to your children, that we're not changing that or not being asked to change that.
No, but I wouldn't be able to pass the 4 acres on to her.
No, I understand.
Okay.
This is a difference between 2 to 4.
Yes.
That's really the whole,
It's not really the whole thing, Al. I appreciate you want to diminish it, but it's not really the whole thing.
okay.
Any other discussion? Yes, go ahead.
54, and you look at the bolded section, it talks about succession. And it says that it could be left to the immediate family. But it doesn't say anything about residency.
That's true. However, that's covered in other,
well, there was another
Yeah,
regulation that she
I think,
adjusted.
that's already covered because it says.
Yeah, it's in a following one.
Anybody has.
As long
has
as we
to be-
don't turn one thing over with another.
Yeah.
And maybe that could be added in there somewhere.
It would be redundant to what we have said elsewhere, but yes, it could be to make it, be sure it's clear.
Because that's sometimes when things get a little dicey, when it's like, yeah, it doesn't say it here, but it does say it there.
Yeah.
So,
Can we just vote on this and just be done with it?
Are you moving the question, Jake?
I think so. I think I'm going to make a motion to vote on all 3 at once.
Sorry.
Well,
Hold on, if I may?
Good.
Hold on. We are in discussion on DJ's motion. It's been moved, seconded, we're in discussion. If the motion has been moved by you, then we vote on it. Is that what you're wishing to do?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to make a motion to
No,
move,
it's not
I'm
a-
going to move on voting.
Move the question. Okay. So everybody understand what we're voting on? We're voting on the motion to approve the draft regulation changes to section 407, 54, 57, and 59 as presented.
I guess so.
So
Is this about saving the family farm or destroying the family farm?
So no more discussion, thank you very much. We'll vote on it. All those in favor, I'll need a hand vote, because I'll need to count the votes. All those in favor signify by raising your hand.
In favor?
Yes. Okay. So there's 4 in favor. All those opposed to the motion? 1, 2, 3. So it's passed. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Oh, no, I'll entertain one. I'll need one.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting of March 13th at 7.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.